This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. For the last 4 years or so much of the conversation around healthcare in our country has centered around COVID and the implications of COVID, the vaccines, the lockdowns, the information war, people losing their jobs for not wanting to get vaccinated, all sorts of other things that have become very almost like political issues more than medical issues. And through it all, whenever the subject of COVID vaccines or mRNA vaccines come up, there's always a caller or two, maybe more than one or two actually, that always bring up the name of Dr. Robert Malone. Whenever I've discussed the COVID topic, I'd be deluged with emails saying, you've got to talk to Dr. Robert Malone. So I reach out to some people that I know in the mainstream healthcare community and the healthcare research community, and I ask, hey, what's the story with this Robert Malone? It seems like he's very qualified, an immunologist, virologist, a clinical research affairs expert, and one of the pioneers of mRNA vaccine technology. And all I heard from person after person that's in the mainstream of the medical community was something along the lines of, oh, you can't give that guy a platform to speak, or some version of, he's a con artist. Now, that is all I need to hear, because whenever there's anybody that wants me to deny someone else an opportunity to have a platform, that is the first person that I want to give a platform to. So I am very, very pleased to welcome Dr. Robert Malone. He's the author or the co-author of a new book called War, Enforcing the New World Order. He is a virologist, an immunologist, and as I alluded to, one of the pioneers in mRNA technology. Dr. Malone, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on the radio.
Thanks for having me on, Frank.
So it's interesting. I characterized your role with mRNA technologies and mRNA vaccines accurately, right? You were an early pioneer in developing this, right?
Well, that's fair. The truth is that I actually wrote the first invention disclosure, that the technology came off of my bench, and that I was deeply involved in really leading the team at Vical that first reduced it to practice in 1990 and 1991. Hence, we had a series of patents. And none of these Moderna or these Johnny-come-latelys that were like a decade later got going on it until the patents really started expiring.
Interesting how that works. So you, as a pioneer in mRNA, being critical of mRNA vaccines like the COVID shots, that's almost what we would call in pro wrestling a heel turn. A guy is part of a wrestling stable for a long time, and then he turns on his work and his cohorts. What happened? Why did you turn on mRNA vaccines or mRNA technology?
Well, that's an interesting metaphor, but the truth is that, remember, I started working on this about a decade before pretty much anybody that's currently credited or got the Nobel Prize. And by the late 1990s, I concluded that the tech really, that I couldn't overcome the toxicity problems that I was seeing in animal models, including non-human primate models. And I moved on to other technologies, still staying focused on the use of gene therapy for vaccination purposes, among other things. And then along comes this situation, and I, at that point, had recently finished a fellowship at Harvard Medical School in global clinical research, had years of training in medical ethics, And what I saw going on was just wrong, according to everything that I had been taught and according to the Nuremberg Code and the Helsinki Agreement and the Belmont Report, and I can go on and on and on. And so I began with what I thought was safe territory of objecting to the ethics of what was happening, the enticement, the coercion, and, of course, the mandates. And then people found out about my background. They started asking me to help them to understand what was going on. And one thing led to another. I just called it as I saw it. It wasn't, that big a deal, but I guess everybody else pretty much was wrapped up in this false narrative that now has been documented by the Energy and Commerce Committee this last month that put out an amazing report that basically validated everything I said and also further validated the book.
What's the matter, just to get it to basics for people that haven't been following your work, what's the matter with the COVID shot specifically?
Two main things. So the simplest way to distill it down is we were told three lies. The first lie was that SARS-CoV-2 was a highly lethal virus and it would kill 3 to 4 out of every 100 people infected. That was known to be a lie very early on because of the work of Jay Bhattacharya at Stanford that showed accurately that the mortality rate from the viral infection and disease was a fraction of percent, and even lower in children. The second lie was that the vaccine products were safe. And we now, I knew early on, I was in a chat group with 3 other FDA scientists meeting weekly, going over the data and information on ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and other early treatments. And we knew very early on about the cardiac problems, the myocarditis, the blood clot problems, the central nervous system problems, the problems with viral reactivation, which is an indicator of immune system problems. So the information was out there very early, but it was suppressed about the adverse events associated with the vaccine because of the logic. And there was an international agreement between the United States and Great Britain about this, for example. The logic was that anything that would cause somebody to become, quote, vaccine hesitant needed to be suppressed. That was the official government policy, hence the Psy War. The third lie was that these products were effective. And that's some nuance in terms of the biased calculations regarding their, quote, efficacy. I spoke notoriously at the Lincoln Memorial protest called Stop the Mandates and made the statement that these products weren't working. They weren't preventing infection and disease. Now, the Washington Post literally called me a liar for saying that, but now this is widely acknowledged. It's widely acknowledged that spike is a toxin, and we're forcing people's bodies to manufacture the toxin. So the 3 underlying fundamental lies are that SARS-CoV-2 is a highly lethal virus. That's false. Number 2, that the vaccines are safe. That's false. And number 3, that the vaccines are effective in preventing spread, infection, and disease. That's also false.
At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Dr. Robert Malone. He is the author of the new book, Psy War, Enforcing the New World Order. Let me ask you about that third prong in what you just chronicled in terms of the COVID vaccine, about the effectiveness of the COVID, understanding the side effects and understanding the misunderstanding of the lethality of COVID. Do you really think that these vaccines really didn't play any role whatsoever in ending the pandemic?
That's an interesting way to put the question. This is a highly, highly infectious virus. And as we all now know, vaccination doesn't stop it from spreading. Now, has the, quote, pandemic been stopped? No, well, the virus has become endemic. And a good case can be made, and I made it in op-eds with Peter Navarro in Washington Times, that the vaccination campaign with a leaky vaccine, which is what this is, it doesn't stop infection. And the data, for instance, from the Cleveland Clinic is very clear. The more jabs you take with these products, the more likely you are to get severe disease. That data has been reproduced all over the world. But the evidence is, and the underlying virology and evolutionary virology suggests that jabbing people universally with a leaky vaccine drives the virus to evolve to escape the vaccine. And that's exactly what we saw. Whether or not that's cause and effect, there's no question that the virus evolved in ways that caused it to escape the vaccine. Was it due to jabbing people with an ineffective, leaky vaccine? That is certainly a credible hypothesis.
So you think that not only was the mass vaccination program ineffective, it could potentially have made or continue to make things worse?
Precisely.
Wow. All right. The broader use of mRNA vaccines is being explored not only in this country but around the world. There's now reports that mRNA vaccines are being used and developed for cancer. Do you support that, or would you have the same sort of objection to using it for cancer?
So that's the original indication that Moderna attempted to prosecute and repeatedly failed. Remember, I'm an old man now. I'm just had my 65th birthday, and I started doing this kind of research at 28. And before that, I was working on other cancer in retrovirus work in my early and mid 20s. So I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen round after round after round of promises that gene therapy and cancer vaccines will be effective. There certainly is the potential that targeted immune, a variety of different types, can assist in overcoming the risk or the event of metastatic cancer, particularly lymphoma and leukemia, hematologic cancers. So that's a hope. Certainly, our immune system is crucial in eliminating early cancers in our body. A case can be made that we're constantly developing cancer, and particularly our cellular immune response is clearing it. But can boosting people, because that's what it is, with genetic vaccine products or other strategies, cause them to break tolerance, is the usual term, against an established malignancy? That's turned out to be a really hard lift. And a lot of companies have raised a lot of capital over that and repeatedly failed. Is it possible? Will somebody eventually come up with the magic bullet? Absolutely. Let's hope it does. Mm-hmm. But the probability based on past track record that this tech is going to result in any major improvement in the ability to elicit a immune response that will clear an established malignancy is modest, I think. It's not the investment I would make if I had a bunch of capital to spend on Wall Street, for example.
If you're just tuning in, I'm Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Malone. He's the author of the book Psy-War, Enforcing the New World Order. I want to talk to you primarily about the book. One more medical question, if I can, though. Aggressive HPV vaccination of girls has reportedly eliminated cervical cancer in Australia and Scotland. A lot of folks will say, well, if it's working in Australia and Scotland, why aren't we doing the same thing here? What's your answer to that?
That's an interesting question, and the data have been supportive of HPV vaccine in sexually active men and women. Remember that young men and sexually active men, particularly in promiscuous communities, have problems with oropharyngeal HPV cancer, in other words, cancer of the mouth. Due to various sexual practices. We don't need to go there in the radio.
Sure.
So it's not just sexually active women. It's also men. The issue with HPV is at what point in life should one be vaccinated, and should one really be vaccinating children? Because it's like all medicines, it's not without risk. And the key question is the risk-benefit. And there are those that raise concerns about the risks associated with human papillomavirus. That hasn't been my focus, vaccines. But I think the logic is pretty compelling that if you are going to deploy these vaccines or a aggressive vaccination campaign, it ought to be done kind of on the doorstep of sexual maturity, sexual activity, rather than at a very young age. And the big point that I've made all the way through this is it's the fundamental biomedical, ethically proper right of human beings, patients, to make their own decision. If the HPV vaccine works really well, then just like with the COVID vaccine, if Mary decides that she doesn't want to take it, or her parents decide that they don't want her to take it, that shouldn't keep Jane from being protected if she does choose the vaccine. So the point that all the way through I've tried to drive home, and it's all gotten obscured by the cloud of propaganda, has been to respect human rights. And it's a paradox. You know, we talk about respecting reproductive rights for women, but for some reason we felt that it's okay to steamroll over these fundamental biomedical ethical concepts established now ever since the Second World War, that people have the right to consent to what's going on, what is administered to their body, particularly an injectable, and any medicine. And, if any medical procedure, if you go and get a minor surgery or a diagnostic surgery, your surgeon will go and do backflips to make sure that he has documented that you have been properly, quote, consented. And yet we've just thrown that out the door with these public health campaigns where we feel like we've got to insist on all this stuff being done to, most notoriously, school-age children.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Feel like you're stuck in career limbo? Clock in, clock out, repeat. No growth, no new opportunities. It's time to break out and break into tech. With CBT Nuggets, you can start building the IT skills that companies are hiring for right now. We make training fast, simple, and practical. From networking to cybersecurity, you'll get short, easy-to-watch videos and hands-on virtual labs so you can build real-world skills without expensive gear or complicated setups. For just $59 a month, you get unlimited access to our full training library. That includes certifications, skill-based learning, and practice exams, a $100 value included free. Learn anytime, anywhere, and get job ready on your terms. Thousands have used CBT Nuggets to launch new careers, and you can too. Right now, CBT Nuggets is offering a free trial. Easily find the training you need and test it out with no commitment. Start your 7-day free trial now at cbtnuggets.com. Don't wait. A better job is just a few clicks away.
It's on, the biggest Maytag sale of the year at Lowe's. Buy 2 select laundry appliances and get up to a $100 bonus via instant rebate. Shop all things Maytag, including the new stackable Pet Pro laundry system that removes pet hair from clothes. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer valid through 5/31. See store for pricing and offer details. Advertise savings on all major Maytag appliances through maytag.com and participating retailers. Prices may vary. Additional terms and conditions apply.
Feel like you're stuck in career limbo? Clock in, clock out, repeat. No growth, no new opportunities. It's time to break out and break into tech. With CBT Nuggets, you can start building the IT skills that companies are hiring for right now. We make training fast, simple, and practical. From networking to cybersecurity, you'll get short, easy-to-watch videos and hands-on virtual labs so you can build real-world skills without expensive gear or complicated setups. For just $59 a month, you get unlimited access to our full training library. That includes certifications, skill-based learning, and practice exams, a $100 value included free. Learn anytime, anywhere, and get job ready on your terms. Thousands have used CBT Nuggets to launch new careers, and you can too. Right now, CBT Nuggets is offering a free trial. Easily find the training you need and test it out with no commitment. Start your 7-day free trial now at cbtnuggets.com. Don't wait. A better job is just a few clicks away.
In your book, Psy-War, you discuss government coordination in psychological operations on citizens. Could you clarify examples where this is happening today, particularly in public health? How would you address critics, for instance, who argue that this view may erode trust in critical public health institutions?
Well, if for those that are interested in this sincerely and they're not just being trolls, I really strongly suggest that they read the Energy and Commerce Committee chaired by Kathy McMorris Rogers that came out this month, October 2024, titled We Can Do This, an assessment of the Department of Health and Human Services COVID-19 public health campaign. So basically, HHS dropped over $1 billion, and that's not even touching the money that was spent in the censorship industrial complex at CISA, at Homeland Security, or the crowd stalking program that's still ongoing at CDC that's called Shots Heard Around the World, that's funded through this slush fund called the Foundation for CDC. But what the Energy and Commerce Committee document is this massive, I don't know how else to say it, psychological warfare campaign that was directed against American citizens that promoted a whole series of falsehoods in close cooperation with the CDC. And these include the effectiveness of masking, the effectiveness of social distancing, the effect of vaccine, the risk associated with the virus. This campaign is the one that was paid by our government to promote. Literally, they define it as one of their objectives to promote fear of the virus and use that to cause changes in human behavior. Now, I call that psychological bioterrorism, promotion of the fear of an infectious disease in order to cause some behavioral change or achieve some objective, which might be financial. It may be a marketing objective. There's a lot of different things that can be promoted with this, as discussed in one of the chapters here on psychological bioterrorism, that's based on an interview from a foreign Russian agent, Yuri Bezmenov, I think is his name, in which, or Alexander Bezmenov, he discussed in 2017 what is essentially standard spycraft involving a series of steps in interaction with different communities, of course, including corporate media, to promote fear of infectious disease for a variety of different purposes, including economic disruption in a target country. This is standard intelligence community spycraft practiced by nations all over the world. And in the case of what we experienced from COVID, these falsehoods were intentionally, actively promoted. They were consciously falsehoods. They were promoted in order to engineer human behavior, engineer the behavior of the citizens of the United States. And I object to that.
No, I absolutely I can't disagree with you there. It makes perfect sense. And in the book, you argue that propaganda and censorship are being used to control public opinion. Is there a line between responsible messaging for public safety and what you describe as psyops? And if so, where would you draw that line?
You said a key word, responsible messaging. And I used to criticize the CDC for being so bungling and inept in conveying their most basic messages. They just seem to have chronically been tone deaf in terms of how to communicate with the American people. And one of the things that has gone on and really got a lot worse over the last 4 years, remember this started in 2019, is this messaging in which we are all treated as if we are immature, as if we're children. We're treated as if we have to be spoon-fed certain things, and adult humans deserve the respect to have information presented to them in an open and transparent way in recognition of diversity of opinion. One of the conclusions in this Energy and Commerce report is the government absolutely should never again be silencing scientific discussion and dissent. And they did this very, very actively. They did this you gave it in your lead-in. You showed in your lead-in how effective that messaging was in shutting down any voices that were speaking in opposition or contrast to the official messaging. And it turned out that those of us that were speaking what is termed misinformation, which is information which differs from the approved narrative, got it right. And Tony Fauci and Deborah Birx and Rochelle Walensky and all of their underlings got it wrong. I mean, that's just, it's as plain as the nose in your face. And this report really kind of puts the icing on the cake.
So since you mentioned transparency, and I agree transparency is far too lacking in every aspect of government these days, you emphasize a need for transparency in health messaging. Some argue that critiques of public health policy can sometimes fuel what they call misinformation. I don't even like the term misinformation, but that's what they call it.
Right.
How do you ensure?
Let's go back. Let's go back and define what is mis, dis, and malinformation. These are all defined by Secretary Mayorkas at Homeland Security as domestic terrorism. Spreading mis, dis, and malinformation is defined as domestic terrorism by Department of Homeland Security. Misinformation is any information which differs from the official narrative coming from, in the case of public health, HHS or WHO at that point in time. So if you're out ahead of WHO or HHS and sharing things that they later come to understand to be truth because you happen to be looking more carefully at the data with an open mind, then you're spreading misinformation. Disinformation is when you do that for political purposes. So let's say I'm doing it because I'm trying to get Bobby Kennedy elected, just to pull a name out of a hat. Mm-hmm. So that would be political, and that would be disinformation. The government spreads disinformation all the time. They spread wrong information for political purposes. Malinformation is a fascinating one. Malinformation is any information, true or false, which causes individuals to lack trust in their government. And that's also considered domestic terrorism by the Department of Homeland Security. So when we hear this about misinformation, let's get down to the bottom of it, because that's a term that's been weaponized. What they're saying is, we don't want you to be able to share information over the internet or however with third parties that is different from the narrative that we're trying to promote at that particular time. Now, I think most of us can see through that when you make it that clear that that is just plain old BS. That is absolutely contrary to the First Amendment.
All right. We're almost out of time. Two final areas that I want to go into with you, and then I hope you'll come back because I have a lot more questions for you, and I've really enjoyed the discussion.
I appreciate your challenge, and I like how you're proceeding with this, so go.
I appreciate it. Okay, so in the book, you delve into surveillance capitalism and the role of technology companies in modern psyops. How do you envision curtailing what you call techno-totalitarianism in an era where technology is integral to everyday life? And are there any policies that you would recommend to ensure both privacy and security?
So there's a couple of key things here. One is the protections that are afforded to the social media companies and to internet service providers in general. Makes it so that they can impose censorship in a variety of different forms on third parties that engage in their activities. And the logic, as somebody who is a fan of libertarianism, I get the logic. The logic is that I'm running a business and I can run my business however I damn well please. That's one thing, and I respect that. I respect the rights of the business owner to have their own policies and procedures. What I don't agree on is these various consortia that exist, like the Trusted News Initiative, and the interactions between the intelligence community and the State Department and the social media companies that we've seen so well documented in the Twitter files, the Facebook files, and by this and other committee reports. That collusion between government and private industry is just wrong. Likewise, the efforts to shut down and potentially even jail Elon Musk because of various communications that are occurring on his platform, that's wrong also. The really hard thing to grapple with as you get into this landscape of psychological warfare is that it is amazingly surreal. Everything is twisty-turny. You can't, once you get into this, you realize that you can't trust any information, and frankly, it becomes hard to trust any other person, which further divides us socially. That's what's happening. And the gut reaction from so many people is that we need to have censorship. We need to shut down these things. And it's a slippery slope. And who gets to make the decision about what gets censored and what doesn't? In a decentralized environment that's driven by private industrial rights, the rights of individuals to pursue their own businesses, in that environment, as soon as we start censoring, what we do is we risk totally destroying the ability of the population to innovate because we can't share ideas. As soon as we try to enforce these kinds of policies, which are justified notoriously by Barack Obama in his presentation at the Hoover Institute, and it's only gotten worse, that it's necessary to censor in order to, quote, preserve democracy. That's exactly upside down. What we need is more freedom of speech. And the hard thing is that as soon as you go down that, you realize that you have to tolerate things that are otherwise disgusting in many ways, that many of us find unethical or inappropriate. Various forms of racism, various forms of various political philosophies or religious philosophies. Many would find those to be discordant or very uncomfortable. But if we place limits on those, quickly that creeps into the kind of situation we're in right now. And so if you're true to yourself and you respect private property and the First Amendment, then it's really hard to square the circle and justify pretty much any of the censorship, particularly if it's driven in some way by the government, such as the coercion that distills down to, nice radio station you got there, guy. You'd be ashamed if something happened to it.
Dr. Malone, I am out of time, but I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope we can do this again very soon.
Thanks a lot. Be good.
If people want to check out the book, it is called Psy-War, Enforcing the New World Order. We've been talking with the author of that book, or the co-author of that book, Dr. Robert Malone. If you want to comment on any portion of our discussion, you can give me a call at 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.
In state and local government, tech upgrades aren't optional. They're essential. Whether it's improving digital services, protecting public data, or modernizing outdated systems, The demand for skilled IT professionals has never been higher. CBT Nuggets helps you stay ahead with affordable, on-demand IT training that's built for your schedule. Our short, practical videos and hands-on virtual labs make it easy to build real-world skills in networking, cybersecurity, cloud technologies, and more. You don't need expensive hardware or complicated setups, just a browser and the motivation to grow. Whether you're an IT admin, public service tech, or new to the field, CBT Nuggets gives you the tools to better support your team and your community. And with new content added regularly, there's always something relevant to learn. Join thousands of learners who are upgrading their skills and advancing their careers. Start your 7-day free trial today at cbtnuggets.com. Because smarter tech skills don't just help you, they help your whole community succeed.